G'day cobbers and welcome back to another megaCam video. I have been playing World of Warcraft for over 20 years and I have loved PvP ever since it's come out. However, I've actually never ever gotten 2400 or reached Gladiator at all. The best I've done is like 2100 in Dragonflight and previous expansions. But the reason for today's video is we're going to create a tier list. We're going to create a tier list of all the specs in Solo Shuffle from an average player for the average player. So let's get into it. All right, let's kick this off, starting off with the warrior specs. All right, we're going to go with arms. So arms currently I know is not performing very well just due to the abundance of Fury players in the game, and Fury is extremely annoying, not only with its slaughterhouse and whatnot, it's just outperforming arms. So I'm probably going to put arms in the C tier as an average player, of course. Fury is ridiculous to verse, however it has been nerfed so it's a little easier to deal with. Even though I am playing a caster, which means I get trained by Fury, so you're going in the skillless S tier. Prot is a tank, so tanks just go in F tier automatically. Now we're going to get into the rogue specs here. So Assassination. Assassination is interesting. Assassination I think is the easiest to play out of all the rogue specs. However, I personally prefer combat and I do want to give that a shot later in the expansion when things have been fixed up. But for the time being, what I've been seeing with Assassination is they're actually very strong because not only are they easy to play, or the easiest rogue to play, you can apply all your dots, but they have a built-in execute. If you fall below a certain threshold, your dots is going to do more damage accumulatively than the amount of health the player has, it just instantly kills them. So for that reason, I'm putting them in A tier, in the skillless tier because of that. Subtlety. So as an average player, I find like to perform with subtlety, it's not very good right now and you have to be a god at rogue. So for someone like me who would pretty much mess up his chains and leave gaps in between him, allowing people to recover, I would find subtlety extremely difficult to play. And I would also say that the only thing you really bring is your shadowy jewel, in what case if someone is really low you could go into that and ideally try and finish them off in it. I would say it's probably C tier but above arms. So combat, theoretically from what I've seen, I think it should be really good, but we don't see it. I have not actually versed a combat rogue, but I've watched a lot of videos of people playing it. Again, I think this one is bound by skill, not as heavily skilled as I would say subtlety is in terms of making sure your CC chains are down and also crowd controlling other players. So for that reason, I'm going to put Outlaw in B, and I definitely want to try it. Marksman Hunter is ridiculous. Not only does one of their strongest abilities ignore line of sight, should they be able to hit you while you're in line of sight, so rapid fire, once it starts channeling, you could be hiding behind a pillar and it will still hit you as long as they hit you when you're in line of sight initially, and they just do ridiculous damage. Or the main thing that it comes down to with Marksman Hunter is just trying to time your traps and CCs on an enemy healer or whatnot, just trying to get that kill in Solo Shuffle. So, but seeing as though they're just so ridiculous and they're so bursty, almost when that that 2 minute timer comes around, their cooldowns are back up, it's almost a GG. I'm going to put them in A tier. Oh, sorry, I'm going to put them in skillless tier, that's right. Survival Hunter, I actually have barely seen it. I saw a couple of Survival Hunters at the start, but I find like these are just outshadowed by marksmanship and its simplicity. So, but when I do see Survival Hunters, they are quite very, very annoying, especially when I'm on a caster and I'm just getting absolutely railed by them from not only range, but melee as well. So I'm going to put them in front of combat in the B tier. BM's just been given a buff. So I don't know how that's going to go. I have come across one godlike BM Hunter who was ridiculous prior to the buffs. So I think this has the potential to be very, very good. And I'm going to put it in A tier just because it is another Hunter. And Hunters are ridiculous. All right, we've got the Vengeance Demon Hunter. He's a tank, so you're going straight in there. Havoc Demon Hunter. So Havoc's just got slightly buffed. A bunch of bugs were fixed for the I-Beam, which means I-Beam is quite deadly when they do get on you. I have come across one Demon Hunter that won 6-0 in a match. Again, it was just a full melee lobby, so obviously I got trained into the ground. But this Demon Hunter, I still find they're very weak compared to other melee. So I don't think it's that Demon Hunters are inherently too weak. I just find that a lot of other melees are too strong, and it just outshines Demon Hunter at the moment. So I'm going to put Demon Hunter probably around A tier, just after BM, because they're just not insane like the melee that are overpowered, but the toolkit outside of that's pretty good. Guardian is tank. You can go there, get lost. Feral Druid. Feral Druid is insane. Their opener hurts so much, and you're always in like 2 minds. Do I trinket? So generally what I do on my Warlock is I trinket and I pour it away so they can't get all those bleeds up. Ideally, if you're a bleed immunity race, like a dwarf, or actually Iron Forged dwarf, or a regular dwarf, not the earthens, because they don't have this ability, but you can just get rid of those bleeds and kind of screw the opener. But Feral is ridiculous. They do so much damage. They have on-demand cool CC with their Cyclone all the time. They have a ranged interrupt, and they just quite... They're not insanely the most tankiest, but they are, yeah, just ridiculous to deal with. They're just constantly with damage, stuns, and whatnot. So they're definitely going A tier. I'm going to put them in front of Assassination. Resto Druid. So Resto Druid I find is one of the weaker healers. They're not bad, they're good, but they like not the strongest either. When I do come across them, I guess a lot of times their winning is just through tons of CC chains, and especially when they've got their tree form up and they're just going ham with that and being able to spam those regrowths. So, you know, people are pretty much immune to death during that, which is insane. So I'm going to put their Druid in probably B tier. Balance. So balanced druids. Balanced druids are quite ridiculous because they can burst pretty heavily, and they've just gotten a buff on Star Surge, making it hit about 30% harder, I believe. So I feel like if the stars align, no pun intended, they will actually decimate you pretty badly. So for this one, I have come across a couple and they have been very difficult to deal with. However, they still don't have that, like from the brackets I've seen, that finishing, being able to finish someone off very easily on demand. It's kind of like I said before, things have to line up for them and then they can do some real damage, but they have that insane constant pressure, which is kind of their benefit. So I'm going to put this here in B tier above everything else so far. Frost DK. So Frost gets completely outshadowed by Unholy. Unholy is everywhere and you very rarely see Frost, but when you do, I find they're only deadly if you're stuck versing them during their cooldowns. Outside of that, I don't find them that bad to deal with. They're just ridiculous when their cooldowns are up, of course, but you don't see many because Unholy just outshines it. So I'm going to be putting Frost B tier. And as I just spoke to, Unholy is absolutely insane. They've just been nerfed and I still don't feel like it's enough. But they are absolutely insane. Especially when you're versing a caster, you just cannot get away from them from the amount of grips they have. They do ridiculous damage while you're near them during their cooldowns. And on top of that, they constantly having that like an AMS up, their anti-magic shell, which makes it difficult because you can't fear them, you can't dot them, you can't control them, you just have to do direct damage or outlive the shield. And then on top of that, they're just tanky. But when they don't have cooldowns or defensives, they are quite squishy. So you ideally just want to make yourself not feel like the convenient choice for them to go to if you're a caster. And you want to kind of keep your distance during their cooldowns. So my play is usually just run while they got the cooldowns going and then start going from and go from there. But they are definitely S tier. I'd say after the Fury changes, they are better than Fury. They sit about there. Blood DK is a tank, so putting you there. Devastation Evoker. I haven't come across many Devastation Evokers, but they do just can instigate. The few I've come across have just suddenly dropped someone in like 2 seconds. Like out of nowhere. But outside of that, I find if the fight goes on too long and they're not able to line up that burst, they just get absolutely decimated. They're so squishy. So for that, I'm going to put them at the top of A tier because their burst is insane, but the defenses are not as, I guess, good as these classes up here. So they can't just make mistakes and continue on. Augmentation. I've come across 1 or 2 augmentations in Soul Shuffle, and it's very weird how it changes the dynamic of the arena, the match itself. But when I did, I just found the augmentation so hard to kill. And the constant eruption was just very disruptive to me trying to cast. I'm playing a warlock, so I'm asking for it. But I think augmentation really relies on who they're with. Granted, I was in a lobby with 2 other melees and the augmentation, so the melee were just sitting on me and the aug was just able to pump and bust their damage out and get the melee to do ridiculous damage. So I'm going to put aug around here because they're very reliant on who they're with. Actually, they're going to be at the top of the C tier. So if I can move that, yeah, let's go like this. There we go. Preservation is insane at the moment. I find the dragons are very difficult to defeat. However, they are squishy, so if you can catch them off guard, you can kind of start putting pressure, but their healing throughput is insane. So I'm not going to say they're the best healer, but I definitely feel like they're around here, top of B tier in terms of healing. Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin's a bit weird. So they have very good, I've had come across a couple of Paladins that are really, really good at healing, but I feel they're a little easier to shut down. And once you've managed to make them cycle through their cooldowns, just being able to actually directly heal, they struggle a lot. And because of that, I feel they're weaker than Preservation for sure. And they're probably weaker than Druid at the moment. So I'm going to put them there. Retribution Paladin. So Ret is like usual, and I used to play a Ret, so I can definitely attest to this. They are just easy. They're easy to play. They're strong. They have a lot of ability. So you see a lot of Paladins because it's easy to perform on Paladin for minimal effort, especially as Ret. And because of that, I'm not going to put them in skill list here because I feel like they're not just busted broken at the moment like they were in Dragonflight, where it was just literally free wins, but they are very, very strong, especially because they pretty much have wings almost every 25 seconds with the Wake of Ashes talent. So I'm going to put them probably around here. I'll actually put them above Devastation because they're a melee, and melee are just dominating at the moment. Protection Paladin is next. So we're just going to put Protection Paladin over there. Discipline Priest. Discipline Priest, okay. Discipline Priest is nuts. They put out good pressure. Their healing throughput's really good. Their CC's decent. They're just a well-rounded class to solo shuffle. But I do find as an average player trying to play one, I struggle to get around them. Holy is easier, but Holy's just nowhere near as strong. But for that, Disc Priest I feel is over there in A tier as a healer. Holy, consequently, is just weak at the moment. They're strong and easy. I'm sorry, they're easy to play. They're just not as strong as they used to be. They were just dominating the meta in Dragonflight for a lot of time. And now they're kind of being tuned back down. Their day in the sun's kind of disappeared. So I feel like Holy is like probably one of the worst healers at the moment. So I'm going to put them over here in the C tier. Shadow Priests. Shadow Priests are pretty nuts. They're very strong. They're tanky. And they obviously have an MS and whatnot as well with their Psyfiend. And they can do some pretty nuts damage. I feel like Shadow Priests rather only struggle when you know how to shut them down. And not many people know how to do that in the brackets I'm stuck in at the moment. So for that reason, they're a caster, so they can't really beat much melee. I'm going to put them around here. Windwalker. Windwalker is insane. They do so much damage at the moment. I feel like they're S tier. If they catch you, they have so many micro interrupts. They also, this Whirling Dragon Punch making you float back down is very, very annoying and frustrating. It's pretty much like a stun when you're a caster. So it's very annoying to verse them. They're sticky. And they do a lot of damage during their cooldowns when their Celestials are up. So for that reason, I'm definitely going to put them in a skill list here. And I'm going to move them in front of Assassination Rogue because I feel like they take less skill than Assassination Rogue. Brewmaster is a tank. Mistweaver, I have not seen many Mistweavers, and the few I've seen are pretty much outside of Cocoon just get belted. It's so easy to interrupt them because of Soothing Mist. You can just purge that enveloping mist if you know what you're looking for, and their mobility is not they got good mobility, but they're very easy to catch out in CC. So I feel like they're probably one of the worst healers, if not the worst. So I'm going to put them next to the Holy Priest. Destruction, this is what I play. We're into the Warlocks now, so this is what I can attest to. Okay, so Destruction just had some buffs, and I've been having a lot of fun with Destruction. I've moved to the Wither build from Hellcaller away from Diabolist. Diabolist was really, really good. The problem with Diabolist is I've relied too much on Chaos Bolt to get kills, and I needed that to line up with the demon being summoned to be able to really do good damage. The problem is everyone has so many micro interrupts. They just constantly interrupt you, or they just disappear or hide or do whatever they need to, because like those Chaos Bolts, they're not worth the cast time at the moment. They just don't hit hard enough. I feel they actually hit pretty decently now since the buffs, but I feel like if you're going to go Diabolist, it's a bit different. The Wither build, however, is a lot more. It's nicer because it's almost got like this nice synergy, or it's got like this kind of like multiple win condition thing. You're playing a bit like an Affliction Lock where you're making sure Withers on everyone, but at the same time you're playing like a Destro where you're trying to directly cast on who you're trying to kill as well. So you got this nice little hybrid thing going on, and it's really nice because it allows you to lean into Affliction a bit in how you play with that. Or if you're coming from Affliction across the Destro, bring some of what you've learned there about the multi-dotting across, rather than having to hard cast your Immolates on everyone. So for that, and I haven't seen many Destros because everyone's mostly Affliction still, I'm going to say that Destro is probably sitting around here in the B tier. I'm probably going to move Survival up in front of the casters there, and that looks about right. Also, Rogue can move up a bit. So Affliction is just ridiculous. Like, this is like not even like, it's definitely below all the melee, but it's got your instant cast Nightfall still hit pretty decently hard, like 700, 800k. They were hitting over 1 million before, but they're instant cast, and you can stack up to 2, and you can guarantee 1 with Haunt. Haunt also hits pretty hard, so you can almost do like an on-demand 2.5 to 3 million damage if you have 2 Nightfall or procs. Well, 3 actually. You could eat 2 Nightfall procs into a Haunt into another Nightfall proc, which is guaranteed from the Haunt. So you can bust out pretty solid damage in a small little window if you need to on demand. So for that reason, and then on top of that, you have the multi-dotting pressure if you can get all your UAs off on people and you're not being interrupted. So for that reason, I feel like Affliction is still S tier, but they do get dominated by melee. So they're gonna kind of sit at the end of that. Demonology at the moment I just feel is the weakest by far, so I'm just going to put that actually in D tier because it just doesn't even compete with the other 2 specs. It's too heavily reliant on casting. It requires too much ramp, and people can break your momentum up, so it just isn't worth it. The Felguard did get a buff, but I don't know if that's made a significant impact in PvP. I don't feel it has yet, so that needs a bit of work there. It's kind of nice not to have Demo dominating though, like it was in Dragonflight at certain points, because it was just sick of getting imps all over my screen and pets and all, and I know you can turn it off, but painful. Frost is insane. I'm going to put Frost up here. So Frost Mage literally almost doesn't have to cast, apart from Poly and Frost Orb and a few other things. They just don't cast anything. It's just Isolence, and you're slowed so much, and they are like the one caster that actually can take on the overpowered melee at the moment. They are just insane. And for that reason, both the other mage specs I barely see any of. In fact, I've seen a couple of Arcane, and I know they can be strong, but you need to know what you're doing. So I feel like Arcane's like kind of C tier because you got to know what the hell you're doing, which makes Fire D tier because Fire is absolutely garbage at the moment. Unless you're really, really good and really, really know what you're doing, which I have not seen in the brackets I'm in. So that's going to say in dog crap. So we're going to rearrange this a bit, actually. Let's bring these down here. No, because the E tier is like E tier is just, you know, basically evict from game. That's what E stands for, right? It's so bad that don't even change into it. This like at least has like some sort of chance if you know what the hell you're doing, but it's like a massive uphill battle. So I don't feel any specs have fallen into this yet. Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman's a bit stronger. I think they struggle more with like getting bled up and whatnot. But outside, and then also people not standing in their totem, which happens a lot. So in that regard, Resto Shaman is pretty decent as a healer. It's definitely better than Holy, and it's definitely better than Mistweaver. I feel like it probably is better than Resto Druid at the moment. It's quite strong. Don't know if it's A tier. Actually, if this is probably skill. No, I wouldn't say skillless. I want to bring that down. So I'd probably put Resto Shaman. Where did I put it? It's this bit. Oh, sorry. No, we're not evicting it from game. Probably about here. I feel like these three are quite similar, but them having an interrupt's pretty nuts too. So I'm probably going to bring them up next to, I mean, these guys have interrupts, but this is a ranged interrupt, which is insane. So yeah, I think Resto Shaman's is there. Enhancement. Enhancement just got a whole bunch of buffs, but I still haven't seen barely any enhancements. Problem with enhancement, and I've discussed this before in my other video about the changes, which you can see here if you want to check it out after this video, is that enhancement suffers from the fact that everything it brings as utility and it's in its kit, there's always someone who does it better. And generally what always ends up happening is enhancement just brings damage. And at the moment, enhancement's not bringing enough damage to compete with the other melee, like your Fury Warriors, your Feral Druids, and your Unholy DKs, for it to really stand out as, hey, we're just big damage. They can surprise you with their damage out of nowhere, and that was kind of the quirk of theirs in Dragonflight, where out of nowhere they just get a Thoron proc and you just die, and it'll be insane, which was also frustrating. But I just don't think they bring enough to the table at the moment. So I'm probably going to put them around here at the moment. Actually, I think they're probably more like in line with this at the moment. They just, yeah, like, and if you want to play enhancement well, you don't have enough damage that you can rely on that only. You have to be very, very smart. You have to use your totems well. But most of your stuff just gets killed instantly. So you really have to have like backup plans to survive with them. Last but not least, good old Elemental. Elemental is kind of, I feel it's in the same place as Destruction. So it kind of sits around here. And the reason for that is it's kind of similar. It suffers from similar things to Enhancement, but it does better damage. And it has a few extra things going for it because it's ranged and has and whatnot. So Elemental can surprise you again with damage, and they keep constant pressure. They're kind of like similar to Affliction, and they have that like flame shocks going on everyone and constantly whittling them down and, you know, smacking someone at any given time to try and like get an opportunity to kill them. But they can also surprise you with an Ascendance proc or whatnot and just have a whole bunch of meatballs come flying at you. But they suffer with what Enhancement suffers with, and that's the utility is trash. It's very similar in the sense of like anything it does, someone else does better. They throw down a totem, their stun can be killed, it's telegraphed, and even if you get it off, it's just not worth the payoff. So in that regard, I feel like Elemental is just like a bit at the moment. So that's what I feel is for the average player, to the average player. That's my tier list at the moment, and this is generally what I'm seeing. So if you're just like trying to get into PvP, definitely go for one of these specs up here. Definitely Fury Warrior, Unholy DK. You're going to have a much better time learning what everyone can do and having that window of opportunity to survive and do those things while you're learning the game, rather than just getting, if you go and play something like what I'm playing, Destruction, you get caught out and you just get absolutely mowed into the ground, and you just feel like you're like, why am I even playing this? So that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in today and checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.